Hello and welcome to this week's edition of 50 Years Serving the Island, a series of programmes showcasing highlights from Manx Radio's archives during the station's first 5 decades serving the public in the Isle of Man. In 1968, Manx Radio was transferred into public ownership and became the island's public service broadcaster. And today we revisit a classic edition of the Geraldine Jamieson Interview, with Geraldine in conversation with much-loved magician and entertainer Paul Daniels. It was first broadcast in 2001.
Hello and a very warm welcome indeed to this week's programme. Well, my guest today really needs no introduction from me. However, in the UK we tend to be unaware of his amazing international appeal. The USA, Canada, New Zealand, Germany, Spain, Japan, even the Falklands have all recognised him as a world-class entertainer. Now, without doubt, one of the most accomplished and exciting magicians. Add to that a very unique comedy style, and you have not only a complete entertainer, but also one of the funniest men in show business. His catchphrase, "You'll like it, not a lot, but you'll like it," became a household saying. Actually, it even got into the dictionary of colloquialisms, that I believe. And it is, of course, Paul Daniels. Well, a very sincere welcome, and it's a great pleasure to have you on the programme, Paul.
That introduction lasted longer than my first marriage. Did you know that? No, you missed out sex symbol and all that jazz.
Well, it is a Sunday morning programme.
I've never met anybody that does as much research as you. Where did you find out all this stuff?
Come on.
My BBC obituary, is that what it is?
Well, if they're going to pay me, yes, certainly.
Listen,
You're not a great friend of the BBC, though, are you?
Well, that's all right. I mean,
they sacked
I
you.
did my thing. Well, yes, they said they didn't want any more of it because the gentleman in charge at the time wasn't really knowledgeable about light entertainment. He didn't want light entertainment. He wanted it all to be very arty, I think. So we got the crossover between the boss bit wanting news, him wanting art, and neither of them wanting viewers.
Well, now here you are in the lovely Isle of Man.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? I love the Isle of Man. I first came here when I was 16 or 17. And,
with a bucket and spade?
No, for the TT.
Ah.
And then, and ever since I've been sort of bobbing over from time to time. A couple of years ago, we came to Gaiety with a big illusion show. And you know the beach outside here? Well, we were driving around the island, finding golf courses and whacking balls. And there was one of those mission meetings on the sands. And they were leading...
The beach mission?
Yeah, you know, Sunshine Corner and all that stuff. And to their amazement, they looked up and there's me. And even more to their amazement, I knew all the words to the songs, you know, Join the Gospel Express and all that, because my granny had a mission. So I knew all
up the heavenly mountain with the heavenly breezes.
Oh, yeah, heavenly breezes blow and all that. Climb up Sunshine Mountain, yeah.
That's it.
Funny.
Well, now here you are. I've caught up with you at the Erin Arts Centre for the Manannan International Festival of Music and the Arts. But, you know, this is a small, intimate venue. Now, the last time...
yes, I love intimacy. Yes, put me down for that, yes.
Well, the last time you and I met and we did a programme together, that was in the Winter Gardens, in your dressing room at the back of the Winter Gardens, of course, in Blackpool.
That'll be the Opera House.
The Opera... Well, yes, the Opera House.
The Opera House, yeah.
But, I mean, the Winter Gardens holds about, what, 3,000?
Yeah, well, it's actually just the Winter Gardens Theatre inside there.
Yeah, it was the Winter Gardens Theatre where you were performing.
No, I never did it. Oh. I only did the 3,300 seater.
Oh, that's the one I'm talking
very
about.
Very similar to this.
Come
tonight,
on.
Yeah. And no, I really don't mind. It was Lord Delfond who gave me one of my best compliments, really, which you cherish those, you know. And it was, he said to me after the first night in this 3,300 seat, he says, I don't understand how you turn a place this big into a living room. I just go on and have a chat, really.
Well, I'd like to set the scene here now, take you back actually to your childhood, because we've just been talking about it to John Bethel, of course, the director of the Erin Arts Centre here. You were born in South Bank, Teesside, and during your early life you were greatly influenced by the cinema, because your parents actually owned the Hippodrome Cinema there.
Yeah,
And by the age of 9, you were the projectionist.
yeah, I was showing movies. I was standing on a box to see out the projection room window. I'd probably still have to stand on the box to see out the projection room window. Who said that? But it was, it's true. I watched all the horror movies and all the rest of it. I showed them. But to me, you see, I knew they were just bits of film, so it didn't really affect me badly. And in those days, they were all in little spools. You had to keep changing over from one machine to the other. It was fun.
But people went to the cinema and droves then, didn't
Well,
they?
they do now. I mean, the cinema's still...
There's been a revival.
A big revival, yeah. Probably, I think the major revival started when they stopped the Paul Daniels show on television. And the... no, I didn't say that. But it's true. Television has become like wallpaper, really. It hasn't become a feature part of entertainment. And that's why I find on this tour I'm doing now, I've been on tour since the 1st of February, that the theatre is doing very well again and cinema is doing very well. And I think that people should have as part of their normal thinking not what's on the telly anymore, because you know, don't you, it's going to be cooking or gardening. You've got to think, well, what's on the theatre, what's on the cinema? That's it.
They want the real thing, actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't compare the experience at all. You can either fudge away in front of a telly at home, or if you get up and get out, you'll be amazed.
Well, television is sanitised to real theatre, of course. I mean, that's where the unexpected, and particularly if you're doing magical tricks, I suppose you've got to be prepared for something going wrong. But before we get to that, I'm determined to find the start of your childhood, really, where magic became a part of your life. It wasn't until a very rainy holiday, apparently, when you were about 11, Paul.
Yeah, out in the heart of Yorkshire. I was sent out there to recuperate because I was a sickly child, you know, and very shy, very quiet. But I read a lot. I read everything. I don't think there's enough enthusiasm in the teaching profession for reading. I think that, and I used to read the library. Library service was fantastic. No matter what your interest was, they would find it for you. So when I found this book on this bookshelf in this little cottage in Old Byland near Helmsley, it was all about Victorian stuff, like how to make puppet theatres and shadowgraphs and all that, and shapography, which is twisting a ring of felt into funny hats, and one of the things was a magic trick, and I thought, wow, this works. And I have sort of carried it around ever since. It's a mathematical thing, but it worked. So I went back home and the library service got me all these books on how to do tricks. I should take them back, really. But
your parents, I mean, they can't have been too pleased.
No, they can't.
It wasn't going to be a proper job, was it?
Well, no, it wasn't. And also, my mum wasn't enamoured of show business because my auntie was in it. My auntie Maureen was a devil. She had 8 husbands and none of them were hers. And it was... actually, I'll tell that gag for you. And then I buried the poor woman a few years ago and found out in her real life she'd had 6 husbands. For real. And yet the last fella she never married with, and she lived with him for 27 years. So Maureen was a devil, but she was wonderful. She was a great, full-of-life character. But of course, my mum, brought up with the mission and all that, thought she was very naughty. Show business was naughty. That you can't go in that, there'll be talk. And so I became a local government junior clerk, then a soldier, went back to being a local government internal auditor, and eventually bought a grocery shop and mobile shop.
That was a form of insurance.
Yeah, that was insurance just against being, maybe show business wouldn't work for me. But at the age of 30, I just got so many bookings, I went for it.
Actually, you had to sell that grocery business, I gather, within 2 years. But surely it was national service you did. That's why you joined up in the army and you were out in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You must have entertained the troops there. That must have...
Well, yes, but
that
that was accidental, my entertaining the troops, because I didn't know as a soldier you're not allowed to have another job. I went off entertaining Chinese people in their rich parties.
Were you taking money for it?
Of course. And I still do. And I still do private parties and corporate work and all that. But in those days it was kind of new. And I just happened to entertain one fella who turned out to be Sir Robert Black, the governor of Hong Kong, who saw me a few weeks later on a parade. And so the RSM wanted to know why he was having a conversation with me, a Buckshee squaddy. And I got to entertain all the troops. The Sergeant Major maybe entertaining the messes, and then I got on those fantastically huge aircraft carriers that the Americans had. Went up in up the side of one of them and inside the ship, and got in a Cadillac to go to the other end of the ship. I've never forgotten that. I mean, that was. Wow! Yeah. Look at the size of this ship,
That style.
Useless
what? Style.
Yes, I went downhill ever since, but that was it. And so it was an exciting time, the Army. I like the Army. I approve of national service. I now, of course, chat away merrily with many politicians, and I've always believed that there should be a national service where you get all the drill, the discipline, the spit and polish, but not to kill people. I would approve of something where all the training that I had on Bren guns and Sten guns and all that anti-tank stuff went into what to do if somebody had a cardiac arrest or got burnt or got drowned and all that. So you went beyond first aid, and I think then that young people would find it very difficult to stab somebody or mug somebody if you spent 2 years of your life saving them.
Quite.
I just would think we could lead the world again in bringing up a self-reliant nation. There you go. That's
very
my
important
platform, and vote for Daniel. That's it, yes.
Well, bringing you back to your television debut, of course, was on Opportunity Knocks. Now, I think this is absolutely brilliant, because you weren't the winner. You came second, actually, in that Opportunity Knocks.
I was told I was going to come second.
In 1970, but the person that did win it, completely anonymous now, nobody hasn't even got a name, was an organist and a drummer. And a few months later, he was actually backing you.
Yeah, but Op Knocks was weird. I mean, I got a letter saying I would come second. I found out later, met another couple of acts, and they were placed. The clapometer, do you remember the electronic clapometer? Friends, I want to tell you, give your applause and let's see how high you go on the clapometer and all. It was a cardboard box with a rubber band at one end, a fella pulling a piece of string at the other. I've got a funny sense of humour, but I died laughing when I saw that,
Because you were a Radio 2 DJ for a few months ago.
Well, yes, I've done everything. I acted in Molière, Dear Heart, one was in Molière, and I've sung at the Albert Hall. That was good. I've sung there twice, and it was so. I really will have a crack at anything. I was in an amateur movie recently. I love the movies. I'd love to be in a movie. Are you listening out there, you directors? I'm available.
Well, you've certainly got that deep, deep voice,
one can do anything.
Very, very impressive. But it was the television executive and producer. He was the big chap on Granada's TV, Johnny Hamp.
He was great.
Who got you on board a Wheel Tappers show for Granada Television. And he made this big decision not to edit a whole 12-minute piece of you. And really, that was it. I mean, you were on your way then.
Yeah, well, I had studied television direction on my own. I taught myself everything from books and that. I love books. And I made it uneditable. I kept forward referencing and backward referencing. For people who don't know about that, in the first trick I talked about the second and third trick I was going to do, and in the second trick I talked about the first and the third trick, and in the third trick I talked about the first and the second trick. And he said to me afterwards, he said, I can't make out whether you're lucky or clever. He says, but I can't edit that. And I says, oh really? And he says, what are you talking about, Mr. Hamp? And so it went out as 12 minutes, because even today these television media study people are being taught by people who have no idea about show business. And the truth of the matter is, one song is not an act. 3.5 minutes of jokes is not an act. Acts develop, they need time. And so by leaving myself on air for 12 minutes, well, not leaving, Johnny put me on for 12 minutes on prime time, people went, wow, nobody'd been on this long before. And so he invited me straight back, and I got invited back, and I did about, what did I do then? I did 15 minutes. And I remember afterwards he came over to me and he says, you're not lucky, are you? Because that wasn't editable either. Then I did 22 minutes, and then he gave me the whole show to do. I've always been very grateful to Johnny. Great guy.
You're listening to 50 Years Serving the Island, a series showcasing highlights from the Manx Radio archives from the station's first 5 decades as the Isle of Man's public service broadcaster. Today, we're revisiting an edition of the Geraldine Jamieson Interview, featuring much-loved magician and entertainer Paul Daniels.
Well, you know the way I said at the top of the programme that we here in the UK, we don't realise how big you've become right round the world.
Oh, 5'5".
And this was cemented when you were presented with the prestigious Magician of the Year award by the Hollywood Academy of Magical Arts, and that was before a star-studded audience in Los Angeles. But what was special about it was a tremendous achievement, becoming the first magician to be so honoured from outside the USA to receive that award.
Yeah, well, you know, I talked down my nose. They didn't know. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, they knew, and it was very nice. I'm now a life member of that society because of that award, and it's a great club to go to if you can get in when you go to Hollywood. It's called the Magic Castle. The Hollywood Academy of Magical Arts and Sciences is the organisation that runs the club, the Magic Castle, and a lot of film stars are members of that club, and it's just interesting. Lots of little venues all in the one building, and you can walk around all night and see lots of different shows, as well as have a nice dinner there, and there's some great gags built into the building. You know, there's paintings behind the bar, and you think, I've had enough, because if you seem to be seeing 4 eyes on the painting, and sometimes there is, and then the stool goes up and down very slowly that you're sitting on, so you think, this bar is sinking, and I must go home. There's a wonderful gadget there, because I just heard about this recently I'm a great gizmo and gimmicks guy, and they're raving about this idea somebody's had for phones that will play any sound, so you can tell your wife you're at the railway station. But in this building, they've got a 1920s machine you put a quarter in, and all the sounds of the office come out of it. You push which button you want. You say, "I'm sorry, darling, I'm working late," while you're in this bar, and all that, you know. And it's, I just think it's a great club, great club. And then I'm going there again in July. They're giving Debbie and I lifetime achievement awards, you know, and that's nice. So it's all.
Well, when
good.
you performed over there, were they looking for a different brand of magic?
Oh yeah, they expected big cats and cages and lions. But then you see, I never did that. I can do illusions, of course I can. But and I design and build them. But it's not that. I'm best just being me. It's a funny show. I can't describe the show. And Americans say, "We got nothing like you over here, boy," you know. And I say, well, no, they've got nothing like me in England. They want rid of me. But it's just, I just go on stage to enjoy myself. And I think the audience comes along for the ride. Yes, I know I baffle you because the magic's carefully chosen, but it's secondary, always secondary, I believe, to the performance.
To the rapport.
Yeah.
Mm. But now, the Magician's Circle, I know, I mean, they are absolutely adamant. They never reveal, of course, their secrets, you know, the tricks behind the magic. And yet, I've seen a television programme which did just that.
Yeah, well,
and I thought it was awful. It was a denigration, because I absolutely am hooked on magic.
It's pretty old stuff, though. I mean, it is old stuff. Magic's moved on a long way since that fella. I mean, Valentino's his name, and he's if he was any good, he wouldn't have to do that, would he? But the real sadness of it is that some television executive has decided to show you it. That's the sadness.
That's what I quite
because
agree.
This is a man, so whoever makes the decision, or whichever committee makes the decision, and she have decided to spoil any future enjoyment of that form of entertainment. Well, that's not quite true, but that's the public's perception. Oh, now that's done. Whereas I know 15 different ways to saw a woman in half, 2 of them lengthways. Lay down, I'll show you. No, and it just doesn't.
You're on.
The method doesn't matter.
No.
It's always the play.
And it's the bafflement.
Well, yes. You see, if I give you a violin and I say, now this works if you pull this bow across the strings, that's how it works. But it isn't music, and it's the same with the trick. This is how it works. Go on, do it. But it ain't music, you know, and it's not magic. And so that program doesn't worry me. I just feel sad.
Going back in time, would you have liked to have been around, when the great Houdini
Well, the Great Houdini
was
is
at his
interesting. We have a modern equivalent. Harry Houdini was a fabulous publicist, self-publicist. There was another one around at the time called Murray, for an Australian, who apparently was much better, but was not the self-publicist. And right now we've got David Copperfield, arguably the greatest publicist on the planet,
well, if you were a geller with his spoons.
Well, yeah, bless him, yes. He lives on a bend of the river that used to be straight, Anyway, and he's dead, actually, isn't he? We shouldn't make jokes. He's dead. Did you know that?
I didn't know that
Oh,
at
yes.
all, no.
He rubbed his neck and his head fell off. And the... oh,
I fell for
mother,
that one.
shoot me, baby.
Yeah.
But it's all of this stuff of... it's who publicises themselves the most. And the oddity is... I've never ever had a brochure, anything. Other people, I remember once early in my career, and it's very collectible now amongst magicians, and somebody did one. Somebody did a little threefold brochure for me. I never used it. That's why there's so few of them around, because it was always the act that got me the jobs. It was always me on the stage and people saying, "Wow, will you come and do our party?" and all that.
But you're a rare combination, though, because you're not just the illusionist, the magician, but, you're a very good comedian as well.
Well, I'm not really. I'm a raconteur, darling. One tells stories, and yeah, occasionally as a joke pops out, but mostly it's very relevant to the thing I'm doing at the time. And the other thing people don't realise, really, because I tend to keep it all light and frothy, is I only act daft for a living. I'm actually quite clever. And I do this thing with I do a lot of private stuff where I do what they now call close-up magic. It used to be called pocket magic, then it became micro magic and all. Table hopping, they call it now. And I do that for some awfully wealthy people. It's very nice. And to show you the effect of this, if you read the ancient magic books, like Murray was given a gold pin, or Goldston would be given a diamond pin by the King of Siam and all this stuff, and you think that's all gone. Well, I did a private party, and I showed somebody a trick, and they said, "You must show it to this young lady over here." So I went over and I showed this trick, which is a pretty good trick, to this young woman and her brother, and Barry White was at the same table, the singer. And a couple of days later, this car came up the drive with a present, and it was a ball pen, but it was a solid gold ball pen with diamonds in the clip, and it was worth £7,500. And I thought, wow, history is still going on. Nothing changes. The more it changes, the more it stays the same. She was daughter of a wealthy gentleman.
On a live programme I did here on Max Radio a few years ago, there was a magician. In fact, there was a whole convention. I think they were all Americans, funny enough, over from Los Angeles and Las Vegas and so on. And one of them came up on the show, a great big chap with massive dark black hair and a pigtail, a ponytail, I always remember that. And anyway, we're getting along fine.
Was he
of course,
bearded?
this radio tech. No,
Bearded, was he?
He was bearded, that's right.
Ricky J.
It might have been, yes, the
Ricky
producer thinks
J.
it
Could have
is.
been Ricky J, yeah.
But he said, "I feel like playing a game of poker," he said. I can't remember how many hands are on a game of poker. Is it 6 or 5, whatever it was? And he said, "I would like the 5 listeners, say, to phone in with the 5 different cards, like the 6 of spades or something,
That's right.
and so 10 of hearts or whatever." And anyway, these numbers came in, and it must have been 6, because it turned out, I couldn't believe it, that these numbers turned out to be the telephone number of the Gaiety Theatre where this guy was performing that night.
Oh, that's a good trick. Yes, that's
Now,
performed often, yeah.
Is that psychic or what? I mean,
Oh.
I haven't had a decent night's sleep since that man was here, and they've never
Oh,
brought back the
just
American convention since
just
to
like
actually ask him,
congratulate your fella.
could he help me?
Yes, that's performed quite frequently now. There's a Swedish guy who's brought that back to life with a pack of cards routine he does, where it's all shuffled up and all that, yes.
But coming down the phone line, that's what got me.
I know. It's actually nobody rang in, and he's a very good ventriloquist. That's how it works. What? You were looking at me then, listening.
I was
weren't you?
really imagine. It took a little while for the brain to get around that. Well, now we're in a very technological age, and you've talked about it a wee bit. You've touched on it there.
Oh, I'm a
little bit,
techie.
Paul.
I'm a techie. Yeah.
But surely there's going to be a terrific conflict here. Technology, against such illusions as we've been talking about, your career really. So is there a realistic future left really in your profession for those that are coming up behind you?
Yeah, because what happens is, you see, if you, for example, if you walk downstairs onto the beach and you just do, you toss and vanish a pebble in the air, it worked 10,000 years ago and it'll work in 2,000 years' time. There's nothing like the current, the happening before your very eyes will always be for real. You can always say that. I have seen hologram TV. I have seen, I've used holograms in illusion, I've used technology, but it's always been secondary to the basic effect. Very difficult to describe that. But nevertheless, the real performance will always be superior. And you have to build up over the years a lot of street cred. There's a young man on TV now, everything he does is edited, and yet he's got a tremendous American reputation, but it's all chopped. And I think I have got no respect for it, because I mean, how can
it's
you
just sanitized beyond the
sanitized? I mean, when they organise their own standing ovations, I think, well, how can you do that?
Well,
how can you ever know you've gone well?
Well, we in broadcasting say there's nothing new in broadcasting, really.
Yeah.
It's just how you present it, or
Oh, you get a
twist you
nice
put to it.
surprise tonight. I'm doing a new illusion tonight, completely new. Yeah, you've never been seen before.
So where do you get your current ideas from? Are
Oh
they were still
Lordy,
within you,
I
Paul?
don't know. I'm driving along and I'll think, wouldn't it be a good idea? Today on the plane coming over, Debbie's ballet company, Ballet Imaginaires, is doing Phantom the Ballet, and on the way over, I'm designing the scenery to fit absolutely anywhere, put itself up, put itself down. And so, because I'm constantly thinking, I'm constantly creating.
You
That's
haven't
the
brought
secret.
the lovely Debbie McGee, your wife?
No, I am available, darlings. Yes.
At a price.
For
no
one
doubt,
night
you
only.
know. Well, we appreciate it very much indeed that we've had you for nothing, literally. It's been a great joy.
The
a
pain.
second time around
Oh,
on
the
Max
pain,
Radio.
the pain.
The
Yeah.
last time you and I met, actually, we were sitting together in the choir stalls, virtually,
Yes.
in Westminster Abbey for Les Dawson's memorial service. Now, there was someone...
I remember
a
you
tremendous-
sang and 400 people changed their religion. Yes.
Paul Daniels, you've been great. Thank you very, very much
God
indeed
bless
for
you.
sparing the time. Great to have you on the Geraldine Jamieson Interview this week. May you come back again soon.
Thank you.
Geraldine Jamieson, in conversation with magician and entertainer Paul Daniels on the Geraldine Jamieson Interview back in 2001. And you can hear that program in full and additional content from the Manx Radio archives online at manxradio.com at the Manx Radio portal.